for having us over. Main tenant, he's done really a lot for poetry, not only for us but for everyone. He's a guy with a tremendous energy. And the bunch of us that are here tonight from Croatia, we're all part of this circle that is we're putting out this magazine called Poezia, which means poetry. We started like 6 years ago, and some of our academic colleagues were very skeptical. They said, that we know how it goes. You put out 2 issues and then you fall flat, But we're in our 6th year, So that's kind of remarkable because this magazine is dedicated exclusively to poetry and all things poetic. We started first by trying to contact and to have published our colleagues from former Yugoslavia, and then we expanded it. So now we publish a lot of poetry in translation from all over Europe, America, so the circles are really expanding, and this is a special issue that we put like in 2009 where we were featured at the Rotterdam Poetry Festival in Holland. And I'm going to read a couple of my poems in English, if you don't mind. Then later maybe somebody can read a piece or two in Croatian so you can get the feel of the language. I just hope the translations are okay. And I'll start. I'm going to sit down because it's going to be easier, if you don't mind. The first piece, I'm going to do a little intro just to give you some hints. The first piece I'm going to read is called The 50s, and it's dedicated, actually it was written after Adam Zagajewski, who has the similar poem called The 30s. The thing is, he wrote about the time before he was born, because he was born in the 40s, so he tried to envision how things looked before he was conceived, actually. His poem was quite short, but mine is a bit longer, going back to the 50s, where my father was a youngster, and it's also about the 50s that I'm going to hit in a couple of years, so it's like having 50s from both ways. There are a couple of toponyms maybe you won't be familiar with in Croatia, one village called Žrnovnica, and the rest is, I think, pretty much transparent for everybody. There's also here a reference to a working camp in the 50s. As you know, Tito broke up with Stalin in the late 40s, so all of the so-called Stalin supporters and some of the alleged Stalin supporters were sent to a camp, on one of the islands in Croatia, where they remained for a very long time, some of them for many years, and this fact became apparent only towards the late 80s. So there's reference to that, and the rest is pretty much straightforward. The 50s. Father and his father stomped down the gravel road all the way to the town to see a football game. High noon buzzes through the young summer air. The roar of cicadas is in the pine trees. Glassy hoppers glint in the grass. The Mediterranean, as we once knew it, is still there. A bit further to the north, the airy crowns of convicts melt under the belting sun, dripping like the sweat underneath their sleeveless white t-shirts, as their sad and bitter sigh carries itself all the way to the Maltese docks, then ricocheting against them, only to disappear into the icy Altai region in the far east. Somewhere behind Žrnovnica, grandfather, like an ancient lizard, suddenly scowls his fissured face, squinting from his tight shoes that are killing him, that damn pair of footwear he's sharing with his first cousin, a locksmith who compulsively steals rusty pliers and steel nails from the dusty workshop of the local power plant, absolutely unable to explain to himself for what purpose in the devil's name he needs them after all. Simultaneously, in a Dedinje salon in Belgrade, Tito cracks jokes as comrades from the Central Committee laugh raucously while he tries out his new metallic, as polished as a dog's balls, light-duty lathe machine. All across country, generations with pointed chins, much like Modigliani's, are busy building socialism with a human face. The system that will gradually, like mean drops of vitriol, burn a deep hole in their souls. But in Father's head, the world still bubbles unexplored, floating like a translucent jellyfish across the unsailed sea, as he daydreams of a new DKW motorcycle as black and shiny as Silvana Magnano's high heels, and as powerful as Monsierco's untied robe. So in my thoughts, for I can't help it, I worry endlessly about that boy, because I know his ride will be an uncertain and a lengthy one. I wish I could tell him not to worry, to relax and take it easy, for everything will more or less someday fall into place. But words fail to leave me. Perhaps I have no mouth to speak them yet. Perhaps I'm not around as much as I should be. Perhaps I am myself still only slowly but surely just getting there. Then I'm going to read a bit shorter piece that is dedicated to Bonaventura Durruti, who was a great anarchist leader in Spain, fought against Franco in 30s. Durruti, 1936. Actually, this one is dedicated to a British musician who has a band called Durruti Column. It goes back to the 80s, but we all know about the same thing. Durruti, 1936. Hooligan hero, anarchist leader, son of a railway worker, a guerrilla with the eyes of a child and the face of a savage. Proletarian propagandist Bonaventura Durruti insisted most of all on the clarity of expression. When he had the floor, everybody understood. Emma Goldman said she found him a veritable beehive of activity, and he was allegedly always in good mood. Durruti's column was built on self-sacrifice and libertarian spirit. His funeral magnificently draped all of Barcelona in black and red. A glorious crowd of 500,000 poured down Via Laietana just like that. Even the Russian consul was deeply moved at the sight of that crowd with their fists in the air, who swore in that anarchist who believed that only generals rule by force and that discipline always comes like a spout of enlightenment exclusively from within. Another piece is about Vladimir Nabokov, who as a kid in 1905 visited Opatija. It used to be, and it still is, a popular upper-class resort on Adriatic, and it used to be very popular during the days of Austro-Hungarian Empire, where the rich people would go to chill. But Nabokov and his family went there because his father made some kind of a political gaffe back in Russia, so they had to eject themselves for a while, to chill to see what's going to happen. And then Nabokov was very small at the time, so I was trying to figure out what happened to him. He was in Opatija. So Nabokov in Opatija in 1905. Entomology, the cotyledons, busty college girls, the odor of things of Gregor Samsa's room, the incurable melancholy of Charles the Bald, pale fire, low, Vera in her bathing suit with heart-shaped sunglasses, the ugly wallpaper in that hotel in Montreux, the sweating Solzhenitsyn aghast at the bourgeois display of wealth. All this is so far away, because now they are nestling here in Abkhazia, ever since father condemned Bloody Sunday before the entire Duma. Soon he will return to St. Petersburg, and they will proceed to Wiesbaden, but for now they will observe the distressed seagulls from their deck chairs, and the sea as marble grey as a whale's carcass. Aunt Natalie holds him by the hand, pointing somewhere there in the direction of eternal Venice, to a distant sail. She thinks the little one will grow up to become a painter or a cellist, or something even more sublime. But Humbert has nearly mastered his synesthesia and already knows damn well that nothing ever turns out the way Russian aunties expect it to. And one more. This one is called Across the Street from Spinoza's House. Now the thing is, I've been living in Holland for many years now, almost 15 years, because I got a job way back then for the criminal tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, where I work as a translator. So for many years I lived in the center of a town, and then quite close actually to Spinoza's house, where he used to live. And these days they built a red light quarter district right opposite Spinoza's house. So I was very often passing there and said, there's something there about this. I was wondering if Spinoza would wake up today, see what's going on underneath his window. Maybe he would have rewritten his Ethica, his famous piece of work. Across the street from Spinoza's house. So here I am again, observing certain ladies in the small alley across the street from Spinoza's house, remembering how 10 or so years ago, some of us landed here around about the same time in desperate search for jobs, craving with every limb those ripe fruits of the democratic West, or however you'd like to put it. These ladies subject to monetary and flesh exchange, and me pursuant to articles, paragraphs, and subparagraphs of my esteemed institution. And at the very first sight, I begin to realize that even after a decade buried in a foreign country, we still have a lot in common. Flexible working hours, suspicion towards other foreigners, and similar modes of prostitution. I see the absent-minded Heloise still waving some embroidery, and Alina swiftly changing stations on her red transistor radio, and Amra and Jamila laughing uproariously as they pat the bald head of their big black friend. As I push my bicycle like a wheel of destiny, thinking how at this very moment from Spinoza's window all the way to the last booth with the red lights on, freely and easily bloom and open on the whims of Euclidean geometry. 1,000 flowers of some invisible Bermuda triangle composed of human petals, dipped deep in the mud of the so-called better life, like those stones trapped in the kidney channels of our third world bodies that we dragged over here like decanted sandboats from Belarusians, Ukraines, Ugandas, Kyrgyzias, Ghanas, Romanias, Croatias, only to end up staring at each other in silence like those eels in the aquariums in Chinese restaurants. And even if somebody would turn us upside down, slap us all over, and connect us to some cosmic polygraph, he would sadly be unable to squeeze out of us a single line from the Baruch's great ethics. And one more piece. This one is called Destiny's Child, and it goes back to a decade ago when I was in New York, and then just by accident I ran into a concert in the street on the back of a truck. There was Beyonce, who's now very popular. Back then she was with Destiny's Child, the band. So they were part of some campaign, and I saw a lot of people gathering there, So I just walked and I got further, closer to the stage, and then I saw whatever was going on the stage, and it kind of later reflecting upon what happened to me personally on an intimate level in New York, it kind of clicked. There was a momentum to that moment, So I'm trying to rationalize that in a way, looking back. It's called Destiny's Child. Dear Beyonce, a few months before 9/11, I saw you on the Upper East Side near Central Park, where together with your band, Destiny's Child, up on a makeshift stage on the back of a flatbed truck, probably as part of some advertising campaign, painfully sensual and scantily dressed, you launched into a series of your hits. Bills, 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 Boogaboo, Bootylicious, Survivor. Miraculously, I managed to squeeze through the crowd and get real close to the stage, only to be shocked suddenly by the golden bolt of your gaze. That felt like being whipped by an electrical sea anemone, fueled by the flapping of 1,000 wings of Tesla's pigeons still nesting on the roof of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It was a sensation more profound and powerful than the mightiest Satori. So I did everything in my power to fight it off, painfully stretched like a laucon between your watery reptilian pupils, dumbfounded and pounded into the New York City asphalt in my worn-out All-Star sneakers, close to the intersection of the 59th Street and the 5th Avenue, not far from the Pulitzer Fountain. Desperately trying in my misery to wriggle out of that forceful magic grip of yours, I began thinking all kinds of twisted thoughts, remembering Balkan war criminals, the living skeletons behind barbed wire fences of their concentration camps, remembering mad cow disease, the throbbing heads of poisoned cattle, remembering the Croatian political scene and all that endless inter-party bickering, remembering the prophecies and auguries of Magda Logomer, the 18th century witch from Križevci, remembering the black-clad right-wingers and the profound and mysterious ways of the Croatian post-socialist transition, remembering New Agers attending all those courses for spiritual renewal, remembering stigmas of a certain initiate from one of our islands, remembering my mom's Vileda cleaning rags and those black circles underneath Yuri Gagarin's eyes, remembering the bonobo chimpanzees who resolve all of their political disputes by means of mutual masturbation, remembering Agol, the devil's star that darkens every 2 days, 20 hours and 53 minutes, remembering the Christmas photographs of my uncle taken in the early 70s in faraway Canberra, wherein the whole family poses in checkered shirts on a shiny lawn next to neatly grown flower beds as their faces grow silvery, reflecting on the shiny hood of a brand new Holden sedan, and further down following the same train of thought, all the way to Lijanovic imported hams, 100% pure kangaroo meat, and the wail of homeless didgeridoos rumbling down the sidewalks of Amsterdam. But nothing helped, because in the flaming blaze of your gaze that you whipped me with so stunningly, I could see, as if bewitched, a good deal of my future, not liking it one bit, for it felt so wet and wooden like a freshly cut up tuna fish. And I realized that I wouldn't remain much longer with the woman standing beside me at that very moment, although we were exceptionally tender and intimate with each other, and even had lunch at that very afternoon at Woody Allen's Carnegie Deli, polishing off sizable and tasty Broadway Danny Rose sandwiches, and then photographed each other underneath a rusty fire escape in Little Italy, above which somebody forgot to take off a glowing neon sign that read, "Perfect relationship." But nothing seemed to work, because that look of yours, Beyoncé, said it clearly and loudly. Many a desert thou shalt cross before what? You forgot to add. And so I'm sitting here all alone in a foreign country, in an apartment above a dingy coffee shop with an exceptionally good selection of Moroccan hashish, Tbisla, King Hassan, Caramello, Palm, Zero, whose smoke is drilling through the dried out wooden floors of this ancient Dutch herrenhouse. As I'm writing these simple but honest, almost mime ethical lines for you, La belle dame sans merci, Beyoncé, Giselle Knowles, you wondrous beauty. So this one's for you, dear Beyoncé, honey bunny, sweet child of mine. For you, my divinely proportioned and dark complexioned Destiny's child, who so efficiently and unequivocally, almost biblically foretold my fate between two fiery R&B flips of those shiny red locks of yours, so cruel and exacting, like those curvy lines on the skin of that python of fortune that just as well might have been an ordinary circus animal, whose legitimate tutors answered to the names of one Moira and Orpheus. Thank you very much.